Hello and welcome. I'm thrilled to be your host for today's exciting live event, the first of 6 weekly LinkedIn Live workshops to help you unlock the power of jobs to be done. I'm Brent Schmidt, a partner at Agile Innovation Advisors, and I'm honored to have you joining us from different corners of the world, whether it's live or watching the recording. We invite you to spend the next 20 to 30 minutes with us today and each of the next 5 Wednesdays at this time, and we'll show you how to understand the why behind customer choices and identify opportunities to add value, allowing you to differentiate your offers in a crowded market and design products and services that truly address unmet customer needs. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a marketer, a product manager, or anyone interested in gaining a deeper understanding of your customers, you're in for a treat. During this foundation workshop series, we're diving headfirst into the world of jobs to be done, and we'll get into the practical application of the framework. We encourage you to take notes and apply the lessons to your situation. Of course, feel free to drop your thoughts and questions and insights throughout our discussion in the comments section. We want this to be an interactive experience, so don't hold back. And the way this works is Zach is going to speak on the topic of the week today for about 10 minutes, and then we'll open it up for any comments and questions. That's how we'll roll. Zach, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Brent, for that introduction. Appreciate that. And we're super excited to be here with you, as Brent just alluded to. Looking forward to sharing with you guys the content and even having some Q&A discussion afterwards. So look, whether your goal is to improve the customer experience so you can increase your company's revenue or market share, or maybe your goal is to successfully launch a new product into the market, or maybe just reinvigorate sales in an existing product, the question always is, how are you going to do that effectively? And look, innovating is not easy. The world's getting more and more competitive. So if we want to gain an edge, we can't just do things the same old way and expect bold results. We really need a different way to view our markets and our customers and to identify opportunities for innovation. And that's what we're going to be discussing throughout this series. Innovation is defined as the process of satisfying customer needs better than your competitors. So to innovate, you need a process. And at Agile Innovation Advisors, we believe that process must include 3 core steps. First, you need to define the markets you compete in. Really, without this understanding, it's impossible to decide where and when to invest. And then second, you must fully understand what your customers are trying to accomplish. In other words, the jobs they are trying to get done to focus your efforts. And then third, you need to turn the market opportunities that you identify into solutions that your customers want. So you really need to do all 3 of these steps to be successful. Simple enough, but how do you do this? Well, the jobs to be done approach gives us a lens that helps us to see people and their needs differently. So instead of looking at what solutions people are currently using, jobs to be done helps us focus on what they are trying to accomplish. It's the why behind what they are doing. Now in session 3, we'll be going into depth on what is a job. And in session 4, we'll talk about breaking those jobs down. But for now, imagine 2 companies. One sees themselves as a training wheel company. So what do they do to drive growth in their business? Well, they think about how do we incrementally improve training wheels, as you can see in this picture. Maybe you make them roll smoother or make them easier to put on and take off, or other ideas that may be floating around in the company. But the other company, who is focused on helping kids learn to ride a bike, is not tied to anyone's solution and can be innovative in terms of the best way to help their customers get the job done. So in this example, the balance bike, as you can see this boy on here, is really a better solution because it helps kids learn to balance and steer, which are key parts of riding a bike, before they learn to pedal. The question I like to ask clients is, How does your organization identify opportunities to innovate? What do you look at? What lens are you looking through? The goal of this workshop and the next over the next 5 Wednesdays is to look through the jobs to be done lens and shift your mindset when it comes to innovation. So here's a snapshot of what we'll be covering. Why jobs to be done is important. For whom are you creating value? What job is your customer trying to get done? What is a job map? What is a need? And what is a market opportunity? Each of these will be its own session where we will provide examples and get into the nuts and bolts of jobs to be done. My name is Zach Lyons, and I am the managing partner and founder of Agile Innovation Advisors. And along with Brent, I've been helping clients identify new opportunities to innovate using jobs to be done for about 20 years. My current journey started back in the early 2000s, and I stumbled upon jobs to be done when I was a product manager at Intuit, working on a new version of TurboTax for millennials. I fell in love with it as a result of the success we had, and the rest, as they say, is history. And a fun little fact about us, Agile Innovation Advisors has done hundreds of studies and collected over 23,000 customer needs statements through those projects. So we have a lot of experience under our belt. And together, we've worked with numerous companies across industries, including the ones you see here. So look, these aren't just a bunch of logos we found lying around the internet. They're actually clients. And even after working with us, many of them are still in business. So how about that? The point here is that jobs to be done is an approach that can be used across industries because it is all about focusing on the needs of customers. These companies and many more have adopted this leading methodology. Now, some of you may not know what jobs to be done really is. Others may have used it successfully, and then some of you may be somewhere in between. Regardless, let's take a quick step back. Why are we even talking about jobs to be done? What makes it so valuable? Well, according to studies from Harvard, MIT, Michigan State, and others, 75 to 90% of products and services fail. And by fail, we mean not achieving expected outcomes like revenue, market share, or profit goals. And if you consider all the time and money that is spent on those failed products, I'm sure you would agree with me that this is a huge waste. What's the cost to your company? Now, early stage VCs have known this reality far too well for a long time, which is why they stage their funding and really build a portfolio of investments. They know that not all are going to make it. And as former product and marketing managers, we get it. Like, developing a successful product is not easy. However, given these stats, something in the product development process is broken. So the question we need to be asking is, what does it take to achieve product or service success? Well, true to our nature, we decided to start by studying the problem. We conducted research with product managers and found that products fail primarily for 3 reasons. First, most companies simply have a poor understanding of their customers' needs, unfortunately. So they either do not get a granular, specific enough understanding, or they don't dig below the surface to get to the real issue, or they just don't solve a big enough problem. And then second, with a lack of clear customer insights, product teams are then forced to rely on what we call a hodgepodge of internal opinions, biases, and approaches, really resulting in disagreement on priorities. And then third, due to those first 2 reasons, there can then be breakdowns in communication among stakeholders, leading to scope and focus issues for the product teams. And when this happens, often the product team is told what to go do instead of being empowered to build solutions that solve real customer needs. As a result, companies end up developing products that don't solve a real need or investing in marketing that does not resonate and eventually killing team morale and engagement. So this really helps explain why many of the common approaches to improving product success don't fully work. It's not that they're inherently bad. It's just that they typically result in incomplete or solution-centric customer needs, or they're just too focused on defining a solution before fully identifying the real customer problem to be solved. So you have to know what tools to use and when in the process. And regardless of the approach you use, whether you're looking to build an MVP to find product market fit as an entrepreneur, for example, or increase current market share, or just identify new markets for investment, what is first needed is a complete set of prioritized, granular customer insights. And Jobs to be Done provides us with the framework to ensure we gather this before we jump into solutions. And you're going to learn all about this really in session 4, where we dive into how to do this well. With this in hand, you can then identify the biggest market opportunities and align your efforts in developing new marketing and new solutions in a clear and methodical way. So I want to talk about an interesting and inspiring example that really reinforces the power of first identifying and prioritizing granular customer needs. So the jet ski was developed by Kawasaki, is operated from a standing or kneeling position, as you can see in this picture. And it was the first commercially successful personal watercraft. A lot of fun. I learned to ride one when I was a camp counselor at a summer camp. And seeking new markets for growth, the well-intentioned folks at Kawasaki asked customers, hey, how do we improve the jet ski? And based on traditional customer needs, they captured things like make it easier to use. It took me a whole summer to learn how to use this. So increase the power and speed and make it more comfortable. So Kawasaki introduced bigger engines and improved padding to protect the legs of riders. If you've ever ridden one of these, it's hard plastic. You bang up your shins and knees quite easily. At the same time, Yamaha, who had not entered the market, decided that they wanted to gather better, more granular customer needs, such as avoid having to learn how to balance myself when riding on a personal watercraft, or ensure a personal watercraft can carry more than one person, and avoid bruising or injuring my legs when riding on a personal watercraft. So as a result, they introduced the Wave Runner, which is operated from the seated position, and as you can see in this picture, and captured 95% of the market within a few years, despite being second to that market. So by asking customers how to improve their current product and gathering vague inputs, Kawasaki really missed an opportunity to dominate in the new seated watercraft market. And to this day, they still have less than 10% market share. So which type of customer needs does your organization collect? The ones on the left or the ones on the right? Hopefully, you're starting to see why Jobs to be Done can be a valuable tool. By changing the lens through which you look at your customers and ensuring you gather a complete, granular set of customer needs before jumping into solutions, you'll unlock the ability to identify new innovation opportunities for your organization. So I want to thank you very much for joining us this week. And please remember to come back next week when we discuss for whom are you creating value. This is really the first step in successfully executing a Jobs to be Done project. Let's now open it up for questions.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, please post them in the comments, and we can put them up on the screen and respond to them. Of course, this is just our intro session to the 6. We'll be going into a lot more depth as we go along. This is really just to set the frame of what we're talking about. So anyone have any questions, feel free to post or even comments on what we've shared so far.
Yeah, and as Brent said, the goal really here is to give it in bite-sized chunks so that people can start consuming it and understanding it. In our subsequent 5 sessions, we're going to go into a lot more depth on how to do each of the steps.
I have a question for you, Zach.
Absolutely.
Someone that came into jobs to be done later than you. What we often see that there's a shift that happens for teams and leaders when they step into this new way of thinking. And what is that biggest shift in your experience?
So it's very interesting as a leader adopting jobs to be done. There's a shift in really how you approach and think about your product teams. And it's interesting because I think there's a lot of people have talked about this. Marty Kagan has written an entire book called Empowered, and the idea of having an empowered product team versus really a features team that's just building features. So jobs to be done really defines a customer problem, but doesn't talk about the solution. So it lends itself to really having product teams that are empowered. And those 3 problems we talked about earlier, a lot of leaders in companies, they struggle to allow product teams to be empowered because of those challenges, right, and disagreements on priorities. So they end up just telling the product team, go build this feature and build that feature. And so as an organization, if you're looking to really have empowered product teams, and I encourage you to read that book because it's a great book, jobs to be done lends itself to that because it frames up the customer problem in a way that product teams are now empowered to go solve. So that is a big shift in mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have a couple comments here. Again, one thing I should just say, this is our first step into this LinkedIn Live channel and using this technology. So I see a comment here about can't see any attendees. I think that might be how it works in this situation. But if you have we'll look into that and see if there's anything we can do for the next time. And there's a comment here that I'll put on the screen, very long, from Alina. Zach, you want to have a look at that question?
So to collect those on the right side of the needs on that Kawasaki example requires you to find deep insights, which is not easy. What approach can you recommend to dive deep into insights when we speak about corporate business and people on a C-level or top level position hardly available? So I guess there's a couple of things that I'm seeing in here. So agree, it requires deep insights. What's interesting about jobs to be done, and we'll talk about this when we get into it, is that it's a little different than traditional market research, where traditional market research, you typically go out and interview a number of customers, let's say, and gather everything they say. Maybe you write it all and have a script, and then you go mine it for nuggets, really what I would call sort of a bottom-up approach. And maybe you got some nuggets, or maybe you didn't, or maybe you found what I call, oh, that's interesting, but not very actionable things that you can do. Jobs to be done actually in a lot of ways lends itself to deep insights because it's more of a top-down approach. It's systematic, from defining the job to breaking that job down into steps in a job map, which we'll talk about in the next session, and gathering needs for each. It's very top-down. So we're not just gathering a bunch of stuff. We're actually systematically kind of going through the market to gather those insights so it becomes repeatable and sustainable as a process. So the entire process is about gathering those insights. And I think the second part of the question, which is availability of folks to speak with, that's how I'm reading it. That's always a challenge for any kind of market research. I'm not going to lie, I don't have a silver bullet there. The things that we've done to do that successfully are to connect to the organization. So if we're going to speak to someone, we let them often know that this is on behalf of XYZ company, because there's usually some affiliation with the company versus Zach Lyons. And then the other thing is you can offer an incentive to people to give us some of their time. That can work. The other times I've done it where you try to get people at times, off times, when maybe they're not at work, perhaps on a commute home in the evening, talking to people. So trying kind of all 3 of those levers, connecting to the company, maybe offering some incentive, and just trying people and being flexible when you speak with them are the things that I've found help to get people who are, time strapped.
One of the incentives that we've offered in the past as well, you may have tried this yourself, is if the client is okay with it, is summarizing some of the key insights from the research and sharing that back, especially when it's C-level or top level. Often they like to know what their peers are thinking about their current situation, their problems, what are their unmet needs. And that can also act as a bit of a lever to increase the participation at that the higher level.
That's a great point. Yeah, share promise to share the insights or some version of the insights with them as a thank you for participating is actually a great thing as well, because usually they are interested as well, since they're sort of the part of the study, right? They want to know what others think.
Mm-hmm. Is there any follow-up questions? Feel free to, again, put them in the comments, either questions or comments. Any other insights that you want to bring into the conversation, that's helpful as well. We know that there's other practitioners that are here as well. Awesome.
I mean, and one thing I could add, I know I hit on it briefly in my last answer, is that jobs to be done, once you kind of learn the approach, is a very repeatable, sustainable process. So it's not like you go study something and you find some nugget and you have success and it was just 1 in a million shot. Because it is a process, you can use it over and over to find new opportunities. And therefore, the likelihood of finding insights, right, that actually can help drive the business forward go way up and end up reducing that failure rate of 75 to 90%. Some people have studied it and feel like jobs to be done reduces, almost flips it from a 75 to 90% failure to a 75 to 90% success rate. But really, whether you agree with that or not, it's really because it's repeatable and sustainable. It is a process.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, looks like that's all the comments and questions for today. Let's. There we go. And thanks for the question there, Elena. So we appreciate your participation. For those of you who want to make the most of this workshop series, your homework for next week is to determine how your organization identifies opportunities to innovate. Ultimately, that's what we're talking about here, right? So do they collect customer needs? If so, who does it? What type of needs are they collecting? Are they the more on the left side, the traditional, the more granular types of customer needs? So have those handy, whatever you're working on, have it handy as a reference. And ultimately, remember, the power of this approach lies in its practical application. We hope you put it to work immediately while the ideas are fresh in your mind. You can start to think about what are the jobs you're studying. What are the needs that you're gathering? Start to look at that lens. We're going to peel this one step at a time. Again, we have 5 more Wednesdays. Make sure you book those in your calendar now. And we're going to be going into a lot more depth in the upcoming sessions. Make sure you follow the hashtag JTBD Foundation Workshop to stay in the know. We will be posting about the next session tomorrow, so make sure to sign up for that. And finally, make sure if you want to connect with us, please do so on LinkedIn. We're open to speaking about customized workshops. We obviously love this topic and the work that we do, and would love to tackle one of your innovation growth challenges together. So thanks again for participating in today's workshop. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.